What's up, YouTube? We're back. Brian here with another rod review, and today we are going to be diving into a Japanese Megabass rod that actually is a little hard to get, and it is the Faust. We took a little bit of a hiatus. I apologize. My whole basement down here was totally ransacked because we've been doing some reorganization, plus dealing with my kids with COVID and starting school up. Been fishing a lot, been on some trips. Work's been crazy, so I apologize for not getting some videos out in the last couple of weeks, but we're going to make up for it because I got a lot of rods to talk about. We're going to do the Faust today. In the next couple of days, we're going to be doing the Bunker Buster, and then we're going to be doing some drop shot rods. We're going to be talking about the Landsat. I've been putting a lot of time into drop shot rods this summer, and I can't wait to go on and on and on about it. So stay tuned, hit like and subscribe. Got more stuff coming in the next couple of weeks, maybe even the next couple of days. Also, hit me up on Instagram. I'm on Punch Fishing on Instagram. The link is in the description. Please give me a follow there. Anyway, let's dive into this rod today. And Finn's in the building. Come here, Finn. Let's sit down, please, buddy. Sit. Sit, sit, sit. Today we are going to talk about the Faust. What is the Faust? So this particular rod that I own right now, this is the Japanese version of the Faust. There's actually two different versions of the Faust, and can be a little confusing. This is the regular JDM Destroyer version of the Faust. Has a slightly more inexpensive guide train. Then there's also a version called the Carbon Head. So the Carbon Head version of the Faust actually has upgraded, better titanium SIC guides. I'm not sure exactly what guides are on this particular version, but they're definitely not titanium, and I don't think they are SIC. They are Fuji, but I'm not sure what guides are. So if you know what specific guide train is on the Japanese version of the Faust, drop it in the comments. But let's talk about this rod real quick. This is a 8 power. So this thing is what is considered to be, for bass rods, kind of a broom handle for Megabass. Let me look at the rating here real quick because I don't remember off the top of my head. Okay, yeah. So this thing is rated for 1/2 to 2 ounces. So this rod is a bad mamma jamma. This thing is heavy duty. Now, when you buy like the Perfect Pitch or the Bunker Buster, those things don't hold a candle to the power that the Faust has. So let's talk about some good things about the Faust and what I've used this rod for. So I've had this rod out all summer. As you can tell, it's been my main frogging rod. However, I have used it for flipping as well. So let me go over some of the pluses. The pluses is that this is an F8. An F8 powered Megabass Destroyer is a fun weapon to use for bass fishing. I frogged with this rod in really heavy cover this year. This is my super heavy cover frog rod all summer. This thing is dirty and nasty. I have so much gunk and mud and just junk in the handle. This rod has been through a lot of slop. Now, I have it paired with a Tatula 100 in the 8-speed ratio, and I'm running 50-pound StuffX 832 braid. So 50-pound braid, the Tatula 100. Now, this rod isn't like the perfect frogging, or this reel isn't like the perfect frogging reel, but it definitely did everything I wanted to all summer. It beat the crap out of this thing, and I caught a lot of fish with this on a frog. So I wish the handle was a little bigger. One of these days I'm going to upgrade to a bigger handle on this particular setup if I keep doing this. This handle was a little small for cranking big fish out of slop. Anyway, this rod has a lot of power. As I've said before, I caught some small and big bass in super heavy cover. We're talking mats, we're talking lily pads, we're talking reeds. In the worst of the worst, I always brought the Faust out, and I never was able to not get a fish out. This thing, you can really set the hook on a fish and just pull that sucker out of the worst slop. So in the Megabass line, I actually feel way more comfortable frogging with this rod than the Perfect Pitch, definitely than the Bunker Buster. However, I did pick up a Tequila Baccarat. That's a 7 power, which is actually lighter power than this rod, has a slightly softer, more parabolic tip, but it is rated up to 4 ounces, so it's a bad mamma jamma too. So I'm going to be actually testing the Tequila Baccarat next summer as like my primary frog rod versus the Faust, and there's a couple reasons for that. While I love the Faust, I picked this rod up for $200 used, which is like a really good deal because I think this rod retails at $430, $425, somewhere in there, so slightly above $400, JDM only. I picked it up for $200, and I've been very happy with its performance for $200. This rod is not that light. It's a little heavy for a Megabass Destroyer. It's not the best balanced thing in the world, so let me... which, on a frog rod, the hard part about frogging is you want to not have it blast your wrists all day, right? I've had a lot of frog rods over the year, like St. Croix, that just burn your forearm up after, frogging for hours and hours and hours. Now here's the balance of the Faust with this Tatula 100. It's slightly above the lock nut, which isn't great. Considering how big the handle is on this thing, I'm surprised the balance is not as good, and I'm assuming it might be because of the guides that are used on this thing. I'm guessing the carbon head version that has the lighter guide train might balance a little better, but I've never touched one of those in my life. The handle is great. It's got this big grip, this big long handle with this EVA foam with the little gold accents. Cosmetically, this rod looks fantastic. I love this handle. I love the grip. I actually like this a little better than Megabass's cork. So if I had a choice between this or the cork, I would probably choose this because this is really nice and grippy, especially when it's wet. Of course, it doesn't come with a hook keeper, just like every Megabass rod on Earth. Well, I don't know. There's probably some out there. Maybe the Levantes have a hook keeper. I don't think they do. But anyway, point is, like the handle, the balance is okay. Love the power on this rod. This rod is a 7.3, which I think is just about the right sweet spot for a frog rod. I like 7 to 7.3 for frogging. I think that's the way to go. 7.4 or longer, I know a lot of people love that, but I think that's a little intense unless you have a super light rod. Flipping. So this thing rates up to 2 ounces. Now, I was in a couple situations in tournaments this year where I felt a little undergunned flipping heavy cover with a 3/4 to 1 ounce weight, like really punching some heavy mats or some heavy lily pads. And that's when I took the Faust, I cut the frog off, I'd throw a 1 ounce weight with a big flipping hook, and I would flip with this thing, and I caught some nice fish. So in the tournaments this year, this was my rod that I busted out to flip and punch with heavy cover. So this rod can do it. Is it the most sensitive rod in the world? It's okay. I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, this is in the 7-ish category. It's not lights out, oh my god, sensitive, but it has so much power. And if you're fishing with braid and you're keeping a little tension on the line while you're flipping, you're going to feel the bites perfectly fine, which I did. But the fun part is setting hooks with this rod. You can do thunderous hook sets. You can not worry that this thing is going to bend or break or not get that fish out. You can really lay into bass with an 8-power Megabass rod. So I like the Faust. I actually, earlier in the year, I was throwing it, I was frogging a lot with it, and I was kind of getting a little bit of forearm fatigue, and I'm like, this thing's not balanced that great. I hadn't caught a lot of fish on it yet, so my opinion of this rod was starting to go downhill a little bit. But when I started getting bites on this thing, and I started getting fish and getting them pinned with this rod, I started to love this thing. So I while it's not exactly what I'm looking for in a frog rod as far as balance and lightness, which maybe the Tequila back rat might be, so I'm going to really frog with that rod next year. So we'll get back to that. But for what it is, this is a great tool. If you flip heavy cover and you frog and you want one rod to do both, definitely, and you're a Megabass fan, definitely consider the Faust. This is not a one-trick pony. This rod can do a bunch of different stuff in that heavier application. It goes up to 2 ounces. If you need to throw a big swim bait, you could definitely do that with this. However, the tip on this rod is your typical Megabass tip where there is a little bit of give, but not a ton. This, for a Megabass rod, is what I would consider to be kind of a broom handle. Let me see if I can show you guys the action real quick here. So if you can see, it's got a little bit of a tip. Walking frogs with this rod I wish this tip was a little softer for really walking open water frogs really easily. If you have frogs that need a little finesse to get them walking and don't walk super easy, this rod might be a little difficult. But if you're good at walking frogs and you don't really need a soft tip to get a frog going, this rod's going to be fine. So it's got a little bit of tip, not a ton. It's not a full-on broomstick like a GLX flip punch rod, which I also have, and I'll do a review on later. But it's got a little tip. Make casting with this rod really nice. That extra little tip really does help launch a frog. I was able to cast frogs really far with this setup. Even with this Tatula 100, believe it or not. I was really happy with getting to be able to bomb with that 7.3 with the Tatula 100. Believe it or not, this thing can cast heavy baits pretty far. I was really able to get frogs out deep, way into the stuff. And if I did get a hook set far off, I felt pretty confident that I could get them pinned with this thing. So I give this rod like a B+ for a frog rod. I would give it an A if it was a little lighter and a little balanced, a little better. For flipping and pitching rod, I also give this rod like a B. It's not an A because it's not the most sensitive thing in the world. However, the power and the build quality on this make this rod a pleasure to use. So if you have a chance to pick up a used Faust, or you want to grab the carbon head version of it, I suggest checking these out. Be aware though that if you get the black guides on the Faust, you're not getting the carbon head version. This is not the titanium. So know that there are a couple different, there's like 2 different versions of some of the destroyers out there, the Japanese destroyer or the carbon head. So anyway, that's pretty much my whole review on this rod. If you have any questions, let me know. I just want to say that I started out not really liking this rod and thinking I was probably going to sell it mid-season. But then when I started catching some fish on it, this rod started to shine. It really showed that it's got tons of power. The tip it's got enough tip to do different things. And I never felt outgunned when messing around in heavy cover with flipping Texas rigs or frogging, which is a good thing, right? You want to, if you're going to frog and flip into heavy stuff, you want to have the confidence that you're using a rod that, you know, if you do get a hook set, you get a bite, you're getting that fish out. And the Faust, it became a trusty friend as the season goes. And I'm probably not going to sell it because this rod has endeared itself to me with catching some key fish in tournaments. On my last tournament of the year on Knife Lake, I think I caught pretty much all 4 of the fish that I weighed in came on this rod with a frog and some really nasty algae. So anyway, like the Faust, don't love it, but it's earned its right to stick around in my rod locker for a little while longer. The Tequila Baccarat might replace this as a frog rod for me. We'll see. I'm going to give the Tequila a good audition next spring. So anyway, that's my review for today on a kind of a niche Megabass rod. It's not something you can just go down to the store or even go off most websites and buy. I think Ben at Hookup Tackle does have these in stock. Tackle Chat might as well. So would I pay $430 for this rod? No, I would not. I think this rod is way overpriced for $430 just because of the weight and the sensitivity. Because it's not $400 sensitive. I'm just gonna say that right now, but it's definitely a weapon of mass destruction if you're going to fish heavy cover. So anyway, that's all I got for today. Hit like and subscribe. Stay tuned. Got some more big, heavy bait casting rod reviews for Megabass coming up. We're going to probably do the Bunker Buster next. So stick around. See you next time.